wanted right now, I guess, by the press. And so we're going to go ahead and start. We'll have a word of prayer before we start. And I have asked Dr. Richardson if she would lead us.
Let us bow. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity of serving as Board of Education members. We don't take our opportunity lightly, for we realize to whom much is given, much is required. As we deliberate today, let us keep in mind the students for whom we're here, as well as our constituents. Lord, we ask right now that as we continue throughout this season of giving, the fact that you are giving us your Son through his birth, that we will continue to show love, peace, and harmony among each other. Be with us as we leave this room and everyone in this room as they leave and go to their respective places. Allow those of us that are traveling to get back home safely. Now, Lord, we love you, we praise you, and we thank you. And again, keep us reminded that as servant leaders, we should always remember to whom much is given, much is required. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Siobhan, are you starting today with the resolution to approve an educator prep program at Auburn University at Montgomery?
Yes, ma'am, we are.
And the man has arrived.
Okay.
But just keep going.
Okay.
We just started.
We just started. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Somebody's been cooking.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here before you this morning. I have Dr. Derek Smith, who is the Dean at Auburn University in Montgomery for the College of Education here today. They have their new program that they have proposed previously and now they've developed. And he would like to come and speak to you a little bit more about this program. This one has been a while in the making, so glad to finally be here at the table with Dr. Smith to present.
Thank you, Dr. Hampton. So we, the faculty of the College of Education at AUM are excited to put forward a new program to train teachers to work with students with visual impairments and blindness. I was in my prior life at the University of Alabama in Huntsville when we had the only program there. But when I moved down to AUM, they decided to close that program, and for the last 2 years, the state has not had a program to train these specialized teachers. And so we're excited about the opportunity to be able to pick up where UAH left off and start training these teachers. As you know, we have, by the American Printing House for the Blind, we have around 1,600 students that are served by teachers of students with visual impairments, and only around 150 of them are in Talladega at the Alabama School for the Blind or the Helen Keller School. The rest of them are out in the public schools, and they need these specialized experts. So we have created a 30-hour master's program. It is a Class A or an Advanced A program. So we will be taking on students who already have a teaching certificate. They'll take 21 hours or 7 courses in visual impairments. So this includes Braille, Math Braille, which is called Mimic Code, Orientation and Mobility, working with students with deaf blindness, and other specialized coursework. They'll be taking 2 advanced special education courses that focus on general special education as well to prepare them. And then they'll also be completing an intense practicum as part of this, and we're partnering with the Alabama Institute for the Deaf and Blind to complete that practicum. I started my career at the Alabama School for the Blind, and so we have had a long history working together. I also want to announce that we at AUM were awarded a U.S. Department of Education grant that will be able to support this program once we get up and running. And through that grant, within the next 5 years, we'll be able to train up to 40 to 50 new TVIs for the state of Alabama. So with that, we're just requesting that you all approve our mission to move forward with this program. Do you have any questions?
If for some reason that U.S. Department of Ed grant, is it in flux at all? I know the department is changing rapidly under the new administration, and so would you be able to move forward and sustain your program without that?
Yes,
grant?
ma'am, we would.
Okay.
To be quite frank with you, even once I moved to AUM, I continually get emails from not only teachers but from the LEAs constantly asking me, we need VI teachers, we need VI. It's a compliance issue, and so So yes, I fully believe that we'd be able to. I had a similar grant at UAH, but even before I received that grant, it was still it progressed quite nicely. I had enough students for it to make and move forward. And I have a commitment from my provost, who understands that even though this may be a low yielding program, that it is meeting a need of the state of Alabama, and he's willing to back that up.
Did you say UAH closed their program?
Yes, sir. They
I'm so
did.
sorry.
Well, they closed it because I left.
Oh,
So,
well,
Credentials.
that makes more sense because I live in, that's
yes, sir.
my district, and UAH is a very progressive
It
school.
is.
So you left them, huh?
I did. I worked there for
You
15
closed
years.
the program.
Well, it's a very niche field. There's very few people in the state who have a degree in this area. I happen to be one of 3 or 4 in the state. So,
I'm glad you clarified that.
yes, sir.
Because I've received it.
Yes, sir.
What would the practicum look like?
So the practical for an advanced aid program would actually take place over their entire degree program. And so we have a handbook that's crafted that has specific items that they have to do as they progress through the program that's connected to each of the coursework. And so they'll do a piece of it in their local schools or in the regional schools that will work with them to find students. We'll find local TVIs, or teachers of students with visual impairments,
Okay.
local TVIs and students that they can do pieces of it as they progress. With AIDB, what we have done is they have a number of summer camps during the summer. And they're intensive programs where they get students from across the state and they come in and do remediation. They work on things, on compensatory skills like orientation and mobility, assistive technology. And what I have done in the past is that we take our students there and they work through those weeks of camp, splitting time between the Alabama School for the Blind and the Helen Keller School to get that breadth of experiences of working with students who are high achieving, high academic students who happen to have visual impairments to the students who have more multiple disabilities and who are deafblind as well.
So that would be one summer?
It would be one summer.
One summer.
Yes, ma'am.
But basically, you're doing what they do normally with elementary and early childhood and undergrad, where they have field experience
Yes,
work
ma'am.
throughout the
Absolutely,
course. So
right.
they'll get that
And
along with,
And the summative will
The
be that
culminating,
summer,
yes.
right? And I'm there with, I'll be there with them. It's an intense mentorship that we work with them. We're very excited. I actually reached out to the president of AIDD, Dennis Gilliam, recently. We're very excited to get this started back again.
that's great.
We
I mean,
hear a lot about AIGB.
I know we do. I do
I've seen
too.
it many times.
Absolutely.
How many students do you expect, or would you?
Well, with the grant funding, we'll be able to get a minimum of 10 per year for 4 years. So that's what the grant will actually be able to fund. And of course, obviously, a student can private pay. And then after that, we'll have to, hopefully we'll have opportunities to continue to go after this grant monies through the U.S. Department of Education. Dr. Gilliam and I have discussed multiple options to try to figure out funding within the state as well in the future. But for now, I think we'll work with what we get from the federal government.
For my personal satisfaction, tell us your background, because it's a fascinating and a very, as you said, a niche degree.
Yes, it's very well, happen chance. I was through a weird sequence of events hired through PCTF to be the secondary math teacher at the Alabama School for the Blind. I had a math degree, and Dennis Gilliam, the president of AIDB, was the math teacher before me, and went to the Alabama School for the Deaf to be a principal. And they hired me on a 1-year contract to come in, and I fell in love with the kids. I just fell in love with the
You
kids.
can't help it.
I could not. No, you cannot. And so I taught secondary math there. I earned my master's degree from UAB, who had the VI program at the time. And then I was fortunate enough to win a U.S. Department of Education fellowship, and I went to Texas Tech to do my doctorate in special ed visual impairments.
Thank you
And
for
so,
your commitment.
well,
That's
thank
a
you.
very,
No, I love these kids, and it's all about taking care of this special population of
I
kids.
like their football team too. It's
That's,
amazing.
that's right.
I've been there so many times. I go
Absolutely.
back to,
Very nice.
I'll quit.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Do you all have a program for teachers of the deaf?
We do not. I'll
We
let
do
Dr.
have one
Hampton
in the
talk about
state.
that.
Currently, we have that program at the University of Mount Valor.
Okay.
It's even an AIGB.
And I heard a speaker who has a child that they adopted that was deaf, and how difficult it was to get what they knew she needed. But things have worked out, and they used AIDB sometimes. Any other questions?
We commend you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm gonna turn this next one over to Dr. Mackey.
Okay, thank you. Sorry I came in right as that one was getting started, but as I've mentioned before, we don't have a lot of university programs this month because they're kind of winding down for the end of the year too, but very appreciative, as board members have said already, to AUM for stepping up to make sure we didn't have a gap here. Otherwise, we would have had a gap in these services. So we now have 2 presentations that I told you about, and I've got to look and see which one we listed first. To paperwork streaming. So Jeff Norris and Heather Hurt are with us, and I asked Ms. Hurt, she's just following me. She was with us. She's also a Milken educator, and got to give her the award. 2019? 18. That's right. It was my first one as state superintendent. I remembered that, but I couldn't remember when exactly we gave it.
Vestavia Hills Central.
Yeah.
We actually just went and saw her picture upstairs too.
Oh, really?
You look the exact same.
She does not. Yeah, she doesn't look a day older. I don't know. And she's working with 5th graders, so we don't know what her secret is. She's still, by the way, and this is no diss to anyone else, but you know, many times those educators, I mean, they're sought by everybody, and usually within a couple of years, they're principals. They're in this central office. They've moved on. She is still teaching 5th grade in her school and doing an awesome job. And stepped up to help us with the paperwork reduction committee. And then, of course, Jeff Norris, you all know, he is one of those who was also an award-winning teacher, and we went and stole him. So watch out, Vestavia. I'll get a nasty call a little bit from Dr. Freeman. So he was teacher of the year.
You
Yeah,
didn't say what he
state
was.
teacher of the year. And so we from Oak Mountain Middle School, we taught math. So we glad to have both of them. So the way, and I know Dr. Shields is back there, and she has been working very hard on this work too. And I'm not sure who all else. Miss Martin and I. Miss Martin's been keeping me informed, and I appreciate that very much. But I only jumped in on their first committee meeting to welcome them and charge them a little bit with this work. So a little background, they've got a really good PowerPoint, so I don't want to go too much into it, but remember this was an act, and they will be making sort of regular reports to the board about the work that they're finding out. And this first, so the stuff they've already found out is pretty intriguing, so I won't go into that, other than to say it is not a paid job, and this has not been really easy. Just Mr. Norris has added it to his plate, Ms. Hurt's added it to her plate, all of their committee members, just to try to help our teachers make sense of the paperwork that is out there. And it is not easy, because nobody wants teachers to have to do more paperwork. But then we have to figure out, well, where is this coming from, and which things are legacy that maybe nobody's even looking at anymore, and which things are required by either federal or state law. And eventually, one of the charges is that the legislature made a commitment they would actually change some laws if we could show them where they needed to make those changes. So it would be something else if we see the legislature reducing paperwork, because we see lots of things added on. So I think they want to. I think they just don't know how to do that. So this committee is eventually going to help them with that, and I appreciate the work they do. So, Mr. Norris, am I turning it over to you?
Let's do it. Yes,
Okay.
I heard the other day that there are 2 types of people in education. There are teachers, and there are those who support teachers. So you get one of each, right? And Dr. Shields and I say all the time that we are forever teachers, so we still introduce ourselves, and I think you do as well when we meet people. So I'm really excited that this is a very teacher-centric act, and that the committee itself is made up of lots of teachers. We'll talk about this in a second. And I also love that we're presenting right after Thank Alabama Teachers Month, and I honestly can't think of a better way to thank teachers than to say we're going to reduce your load that you do each day, and allow you more time, hopefully, and more freedom to work with students. So we also know that retaining recruiting teachers is really important in our state, but retaining really quality educators. And if there's one thing we can take off their plate and keep these really quality people in the field, like Ms. Hurt, then it's a worthy cause. At the same time, we know there are lots of heated discussions and lots of feelings about this when we talk about people's loads and requirements, and so we have been really open-minded. And you mentioned the word legacy, Dr. Mackey. We talk a lot about this being legacy work. We have 40,000 people on our shoulders kind of that we're leading the charge for them and on their behalf, and so we have taken it very seriously. We've had fun too, though, right? So we're excited about it, and we're excited to share with you guys a couple of updates. One of the things I think that draws me into this work is I believe in teacher leadership. So even though I'm now a teacher support, I think empowering our classroom teachers is really important. Not everybody needs to be an administrator or even a coach. We need those people who have expertise in those fields. I've been an administrator and I chose to go back into the classroom, you may remember. And so I think that's what drew me to this work, and I thank Dr. Shields and Ms. Martin for trusting us to kind of help shepherd our teachers and make connections with people. It's one of my favorite things to do. And so really excited about that, and I'm going to let Heather introduce herself, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so thank you, Jeff. Like they said, I'm Heather Hurt. I'm a 5th grade teacher in Vestavia Hills City Schools, and I have the privilege of being the committee chair for our paperwork streamlining committee. As I'm sure you're aware, as a classroom teacher, we don't often know what's going on outside of our classroom. We're so engrossed in the daily teaching and the learning. But through this committee, this fall, I've really enjoyed looking outside of my walls, learning more about how the State Department works, specifically the sections, and hearing from them in our November meeting. And then also connecting with and advocating for other educators in our state. It's really, I'm very thankful for the opportunity, so thank you for that. So just to remind you, SB 280, that came about, and so the state board formed a committee dedicated to identifying practical ways to reduce unnecessary paperwork. And there are 5 action steps that we have started to follow. I will go ahead and tell you this. In our fall, the work that we've done, we have already worked with the 1st and the 5th of the bullet points. The first one is identifying the most burdensome paperwork tasks. We are going to be eliminating redundant documentation requirements across different programs, standardized forms and reporting forms to reduce complexity and the time spent. We're going to offer realistic teacher-informed solutions, and we already have been, and we will continue to collaborate with our education leaders on all the things. And then paperwork, of course, at first is both digital and physical copies of things, but this is all non-instructional requirements of our classroom teachers. So, 1st and 5th are the ones that we've been working with so far.
Oh, sorry. I won't fail my job. There we go.
So I want to tell you a little bit about our committee. It's a really great group. I'm excited to say that over 75% of the committee is made up of classroom teachers. That does include interventionalists, our local and our system administrators. We have at least 2 representatives from each board district. For all K-12, our content areas are represented. We have 12 former state Sweet 16 district teachers of the year, 2 Milken educators, national award-winning teachers and administrators, and of course, like I told you, we're consulting with our State Department section representatives as needed, and we've already done that last month. We're going to meet 3 times each semester and one time in person, which we did in November, and we will tell you a little more about that in just a minute. So one of the major goals, though, was to create a committee that really represented all the people, all the size districts, all the subjects taught, really all the populations that we could. And like I said, every district has at least 2 representatives from that. You can tell that from this slide that this is 22 people, highly qualified educators who are passionate about our field. And we've already, like Jeff said, had a lot of fun, but have gotten a lot of work done in the 3 times that we've met. So.
You put good people in a room together and you give them good things to talk about, and magic happens. So I think we've started seeing that already. We're going to try to highlight a few of the meetings that we've had and kind of give you a couple of bullet points. We'll read off of the screen for you if you're okay with that, and you can ask questions as you have them.
You on the map you show where they are.
We do have one, and I think you've actually approved them maybe 2 or 3 meetings ago, but I would love to hand that to you again. I don't have it with me right now, but we have
Be
it.
helpful,
Yeah, absolutely.
because I see I've got 2 in Limestone and 1 in Madison County,
Yeah,
and I'm very conscious of their needs.
that'd be great.
You're
Yeah, I'll
doing
give
a
that to you.
fantastic job, so needed.
Okay, perfect, yeah. They, it's been great, like it really has been pulling these people together. We, of course, since they are spread across the state, the virtual meeting is probably the easiest way for us to meet. I love that they actually gave us permission in the legislation to do that, because it does mean we get to meet more often too than we would if we had to meet in person every time. So we actually hit the ground running in August, which was, you can imagine, a huge ask of teachers immediately starting off the school year. And hey, let's add another meeting to your schedule, but they handled it with a lot of grace, and they were excited about the work. That meeting really was just that time for us to meet each other, get to know each other, hear each other's strengths, hear each other's passions. We wanted to get the experience that the adults brought to the table. So what is it that really sticks out to you in your situation, and really build that shared understanding with each other. We also took that opportunity to define what paperwork is. So Heather mentioned the idea of it being electronic paperwork and also hard copy paperwork, which is kind of a, we want to make sure we clarify that, because you'll see later, technology doesn't make everything faster necessarily. So we wanted to include all of that in our discussions. One of our favorite things to do is just talk and have discussions. So when you have 22 people, it's great to break off into different rooms, and you can see some of the topics we talked about. And then one of the highlights of this meeting, we asked, Dr. Shields brought the idea. She had done a principals audit years ago where principals really cataloged their time, how they spent their time each day. And so she and I tweaked this for the teachers in the meeting and kind of proposed the idea with them. Just to not to add a lot of extra paperwork to your plate. There's that word again. We're very conscious of that. But we said, as you are completing paperwork, if you'll log it, or if you'll just make a note of the things that do take up the majority of your time. Is it worth the time that you spend on it? What do you see the payoff being? And so we charged them they had about 2 months before our next meeting to just kind of like take some notes and bring it back the next time, if that makes sense. And so that's what we did. It was we didn't know what to expect when they came back, and so when we got to the October meeting, you can kind of continue what we did next.
So again, virtually, and we looked at that audit, we broke into smaller groups, and we were then able to really talk with each other, go through our audits, our own personal audits. And just as a side note, I'm a 5th grade math and science teacher. We have a band director, we have librarian, English language learner teacher, and we kind of realized we need more information from more people. And so after we came back together, whole group in our call, we decided as a committee that we needed to create a survey to send out to more people. If we're making decisions and if we're trying to truly know what the paperwork is required from our fellow teachers, we need to know what that is and what are their concerns. And so we developed a survey and we sent it out later that month, and we'll talk about those results in a minute. But the last thing we did at our October virtual meeting was we began brainstorming about what was going to happen in our November in-person all-day event.
Yeah, we got, again, people who really wanted to create change. You could see that there was a need for it and also a want to make that legacy work happen. And so it was all leading to that in-person meeting, which we were really excited about. But you could tell after that we were trying to keep our meetings, timely to like an hour. And so when we got closer to the end of the hour, people still wanted to continue the conversations. And so we were like, let's hold off on some of those discussions until November. And let's also bring in some of our experts, or at least our specialists, we'll say, from the State Department, who can give us more information. And so that was one of our big priorities for the November meeting. We met in Region 3 at the Jefferson County Board of Education. They were gracious hosts, and so we brought in, I think we had almost everyone from the committee was able to make it, and then we had about 10 people from the State Department who came to help us fill some gaps in that background knowledge and help us see the different levels of requirements. That was a want that several teachers asked for. So like, what are the requirements for the Literacy Act and the Numeracy Act? What does the secondary section require? What does federal programs require? What does that look like? All of the different laws that we have to follow. Heather mentioned sometimes when you're within the four walls of your classroom, you kind of are immune to some of that. And our district employees do a great job of protecting our teachers, but also it blocks them from some knowledge that it might actually be helpful, is what we found out. So that meeting, we pulled in people from the Reading Initiative and the Office of Math Improvement, MTSS, all the different sections that we really felt like really had an impact on the day-to-day paperwork requirements for teachers, and had a chance to just kind of hear from them. We made connections. It was so fun seeing, you know, Bonnie Short, the director of Alabama Reading Initiative, with a 10th grade band teacher having a conversation about what their experiences were in the same room. And so those were, it was a really impactful day. We also had Stacey Royster come and some of our friends from MTSS who talked with us about PowerSchool Analytics and Insights. And I know you guys are a little bit familiar with that platform. We've been using PowerSchool, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, sorry if I do, just hit me. We've used the PowerSchool platform for a while to record attendance and grading and things like that, but the Analytics and Insights portion is something we have really dived into since the implementation of the Literacy Act. And now with the Numeracy Act, we've kind of continued to expand that platform. And so in the legislation, it speaks to a unified platform, and all signs point towards continuing to use PowerSchool Analytics and Insights. I think especially after hearing them talk the other day, we see the value in it, and so we want to continue to work on that process. And so that meeting did a great job to really give people the information and give us a little bit of some background knowledge for that. And then the last thing we did was we spent some time looking through the survey. I'm going to let Heather tell you a little bit about the survey, because we didn't know what to expect. We knew we wanted some more opinions because we had 22 opinions, but you can imagine with that many different content areas and grade levels, we may have just had like one third grade teacher. And so we wanted to hear from lots of third grade teachers or lots of people who taught science at the high school level. And so we sent out the survey and didn't know what to expect, and here's what happened.
It was out for almost 3 weeks, and kind of quite the overwhelming. It was funny, it would come in spurts, so clearly one person at a school would get it, and then they would send it to a bunch of friends, and a bunch of responses would come in, which is exactly what we wanted. We just want it to organically spread. And just, this isn't the forever data, this is just a really good temperature check of what was happening this fall. So 653 completed responses is what we received in that time period. You see the overwhelming amount of them were classroom teachers, 549 of them. That does include our special areas such as STEM, music, library, art. We had 22 administrators or central office employees fill it out, 82 support positions, so our reading coaches, EL, paraprofessionals, any interventionist, all grades, and I'm excited about that. Pre-K through 12th grade, at least one, but many times, you'll see in a minute, the data, way more than one, filled it out. And then over half of our respondents had something else to add and filled in the open-ended responses, which kind of tells you a lot as well. And a lot of that feedback was really helpful. So if we look at two of the specific sections, if you'll kind of follow along with me, I'm going to start, we're going to talk about time spent on the paperwork requirements and the effect on the student achievement. Because at the end of the day, is it impacting our students in a positive way? And the first and the third listed is our student plans and communicating with stakeholders. They both have a high amount of time required at 71% and 90%, but they both also have a very high effect on student achievement. So I don't think many educators have a whole lot of issue with those types of situations because they result in student achievements, and that is the goal. But when you look at the second and the fourth one, we have lesson plans at 80%, time spent, meeting documentation at 78%, but then their effect on student achievement was 62 and 48. You can see there's quite a gap there in that situation. So,
What do they mean by meeting documentation? Is that like IAP meetings or council meetings and follow-up reports?
yes, sir, it sure is. And any kind of notes from meetings.
I think PLC meetings, so there's professional learning communities. We used to call them grade level meetings. You know, sometimes that now involves a lot of different things. So any type of teacher meeting.
And adding notes about what was discussed, you know, those types of things. So sure does.
We also, I will say this, sorry to interrupt you. We also know that these are not the only 4 types of paperwork. We just really want to take the 4 that, based on even our committees, most commonly spent time. we pulled those forward to kind of get more information about those. We also know within student plans, those are some heavy hitters, and each of those kind of requires different levels of commitment and paperwork, but for the sake of not giving people a really, really long survey to complete, we wanted to get as many responses as possible, so we grouped them together.
Is
for
this a digital survey?
It was digital.
Good. I noticed that it looked like the picture was digital, so
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
that was great.
It
Did
sure
you
was.
discover that some paperwork is school or district specific and may not be required by the state or?
Can we table our answer for just a minute?
Oh,
Let me
sure.
show you some documents.
Okay, I'm
Because that's
sorry,
a
I'm
great
just
question, and we
curious.
had the same lender.
Okay.
Yes, that's a great
Yes,
question.
and though is your answer.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes. And of course, our teachers work hard. They want to work hard. They do work hard, and it pays off when there's student achievement attached with the paperwork. But as we know, time is our most valuable commodity, especially in a classroom. You know, when 3 minutes doesn't seem like that much time, but it sure is when you're in a classroom. Those 3 minutes make or break a day. And if you're putting in paperwork, if it's more, we just really want to protect that. And so, yeah.
When we look at some of the open-ended responses, again, you never know what to expect when you give people the opportunity to have a free-range answer with very little guidance. And so we enjoyed, in quotation marks, reading the responses from our teachers, and it was very evident that people have very passionate opinions and very strong opinions. And to speak to what you asked, yes, a lot of people were we told them to be honest and we told them to be transparent, and they were. And so some of it will call out a school district or a school building. And you know, when we were kind of analyzing the results, we were looking for bigger trends than specific schools, but then sometimes that lends itself to its own discussion, that if many schools are that way, then it may be a good chance for us as a State Department to come in with some guidance or some recommendations. But yes, and so we put a couple of ideas up here. These are some of the tamer responses, and so, but they still hold true. The sentiment is pretty similar. We know that a lot of our plans possibly ask for similar information, so if we can find a way to streamline those or find it where it'll auto-populate, that's something we really like to do. Attendance was a really big thing that really showed up a lot, which is really interesting. You think it's just one click, but when you're doing that same click in 3 different platforms, it feels like, why do I have to do that? So if there's a way for that, again, to be transferred, and we think there is, so that's good. And then, again, you can read between the lines with teachers. We know that they work hard, and you guys celebrate our teachers every day. And so when it comes across as a strong opinion, it's because they love their kids and want to be working with their students. And so more times than not, they actually said that in the survey. They would almost sometimes apologize for having an opinion, but they really wanted to really use that as instructional time with their students. So I think it's really telling, and it was really good information. When we talk about the digital platforms, you would think that, I'm sorry, yeah.
That's okay. Go back to the other one.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that Stacy.
Station
What's your
was,
list?
there she is.
So tiny. So seeing what and this is what we've heard for years, that we don't understand like why attendance has to be clicked 3 times.
That's right.
I mean, we know the filters are there and the availability. So is Stacy being able to look at that and understand how this can all be combined in reducing this overload? Is that?
Yes, we're auditing all of those to see if we can improve those workflows and get some of that data. Some of it is also understanding the different types of data, because we did have a long discussion about there's a difference in attending school versus attending an intervention. So we have to be careful. For example, if a student checks in at the beginning of the school day, so they're technically absent first period, but that's when, or they're present there and the intervention is later in the day, sometimes the school day attendance and the intervention attendance might be different. So we have to kind of work through those edge cases and figure out how we can get it the most streamlined for them.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, one of our problems is there's so many of these things where, like I've had some legislators, some leadership to say, why we don't require this report. No, I'm saying it backwards. We don't require this information, teachers to fill out this information. but they do require that we give them a report that includes all the information. And the only way we can get the information is for teachers to fill it out, because we can't know what's going on in the classroom. The student, those SRIPs have been one of those have been hard. And you know, you've served on the Literacy Task Force, because there's a ton of information the legislature requires us to provide that can only be accessed through the SRIPs. And so they have to be broad enough that they include all the information. But I do think that's one of the things where legislators have told me they realize they may have overstepped, and they may be requiring too many things on teachers, but they just don't know where to make the cuts. Ultimately, I think there'll be some of these recommendations are, you gotta go back and amend these laws and change these things. The other thing I want to say is that second one, I'm still puzzled over, of this whole presentation. That one is my favorite, because I really did not realize we still had local counties requiring a paper grade book, like an old register, in addition to Power School, which has automated everything. But we do have counties that are still required, you have to do it the way they do it and the way the state requires, which only one of those is actually required by us. So I think that gets to Ms. West's question. Like, there are some areas where local districts are requiring additional. Now, I'm not going to say who or even why. Maybe they have a good justification for that. But this was news to me. Like, if you had asked me at the table here, is anybody still requiring paper grade books in addition to the Power School attendance? I would have said, I'm sure there's not. But there are. Turns out there are. And so this is why their work's really good, because we're finding out what these layers are.
So I just want to be clear. So we've got some districts so when we adopted Power School, it was the first ever consistent across the board student information system for our state. So that was huge. And we just never had it. Everybody was using their own thing, right? Okay, so we've given them this tool, which I've been told on multiple occasions with multiple presentations that it can do in real time, in depth, for teachers in the classroom, how their students are performing. So I want to be clear, you're telling me that they have Power School, but they're not using Power School to its fullest, or they're using grade books and paper copies in addition to Power School?
It's redundant. They're using Power School, but they're doing redundant work. That's right. And
Are they getting notifications?
Well, I mean,
this
is the way.
That's what he's gonna do over Christmas break.
Yeah, I mean, I think even
he's gonna send those emails.
back when, going way back, when I was in the classroom, we did that. I mean, we had an automated pre-Power School. We had an automated attendance system, but some of you remember who were teachers, like, we had to do the old registers. You know, they told us you could lose your job if your register wasn't right. Had to do it in pencil first, and then you had to come back and do it in pen later.
And then if there was a fire drill, you better have that.
And you had to take the register with you if there's a fire drill. Yeah.
The kids who get that register out the door.
That's the most important thing. So we did our register. So it's a long way to answer, but I think Ms. West's question I do want to get to, because it is pertinent. Because back then, I remember complaining. We had to keep attendance in a grade book, the old-fashioned ones that were, brown. And then we had to transfer attendance to the register.
Correct.
And then we had to go and enter what was in our register into the old, it was an old Apple II, but we had to enter that into the computer. So we were doing it 3 times. It was my assumption now, 35 years later, that nobody's doing it that way anymore. But it appears that some are. Not everywhere, but I think that gets to your question, like, are there things out there, which they're identifying, that we can go back, and some of these, there won't be a state action other than go back and work with the local districts and say, okay, we have to rethink about your system. And so, even though they got 546 responses, which is great, we have 100,000 employees. So it literally is less than 0.5%. Like, it's a really small number, percentage-wise. And so, and my experience has been the only people that fill out the Delta survey are the people whose luggage was lost. People, when everything goes well, you usually skip the survey. So we don't know how widespread these things are. It doesn't mean we don't need to identify them and deal with them, but we also, I want us to be careful we don't panic and think that, you know, some things are happening everywhere when it literally might be one of our 1,600 schools where this is happening. Which is the reason the committee is not, it's not a one-off. I think Ms. Hurt said that. Like, this is not the last time we're gonna collect data. But it is identifying these frustrations that we all hear, and then, but we can't get to what is the exact frustration and what can we do about it. And the other thing, since I have a soapbox, I'm gonna be quiet, because I promise, this is so intriguing to me, but I thought, again, Ms. Hurt pointed out that the thing most of them said, this is taking a lot of my time, IEPs, student plans. But then they all said that all of these are improving instruction. Like they're almost exactly, yeah, this is taking a lot of time, but I do see the value in this. It's the other ones, when they say it's taking a lot of time, but I don't see much value in it, where I think that we have to really figure out what are those things too, so. I don't know. I'm extremely intrigued.
You know, we had a committee on teacher retention, and it seems to me that Power School was part of the solution for retaining our teachers. And I don't want there to be any barriers or frustrations for them to
Potentially, there's so much value in it, and I think and we'll get to our kind of some of our suggestions already. So I do think getting that to the classroom level would be helpful, or like what are the potential that it has, and how this really could help, and making sure we're clearly stating that. But again, if it's just one school or one district, that is a local, maybe a possibly a local requirement. So I think when we talk through this a lot is what are the requirements, what are the tools you can use, and where's the potential of the tools you can use, and that may free them up to try some different things.
I would comment a little bit in defense of my profession, our profession. It's not unusual for the adoption of technology to not be university accepted. Whether it's a nurse writing their notes down and not feeling comfortable with, or a physician, or even a realtor that doesn't like that new system where you digitally get into the house. I mean, so the fact that some may still require the old, it doesn't surprise me, Dr. Mackey, that somebody still didn't change their rules a long time ago and lets it happen. But that's why we have this committee. And that's why we need to examine it. And that's why these comments, maybe only 523, but I like the ones that complain most, because they're the ones that probably speak for more people, because there are equally number of people who have complaints, and they say, well, I don't want to get my name out there. I don't want to get in trouble.
Very important, and that is why I'm so glad that y'all put this out there. And I guess they're de-identified. I don't want to know.
They were not. We told them, we did have one section that said if you're doing something fantastic you want to celebrate, and you would like to give us your name and email address, we'd love to contact you and follow up about that amazing initiative. And we didn't have as many people do that as the other questions. We had some.
Probably goes back to what you were saying. I have two questions. How many educators do we have? Classroom teachers?
Classroom teachers, they're almost evenly split. Classroom teachers, we have 45 to 50,000, and then about 45 to 50,000 support. Now, some of them wouldn't be included in here, so cafeteria workers, bus drivers.
That's what I was going to say. It's a very small percentage of 45,000, but we really only were looking at the 45, the classroom teachers, not for the bill. That's who this is directed to. The other thing is the redundancy with attendance. Another major conversation piece were the lesson plans. And no teacher has a problem planning lessons. You can't just show up and have a good lesson. That's not the problem. It's the long form written, like you're in a teacher preparation program. That is what people were very vocal about having a problem with. And I don't blame them. I mean, that is exhausting.
You have the same problem.
I do not, no sir. With having to required to have lesson plans?
No, if it's digital, it's technology. And I write everything
Oh, yeah.
digitally, and I use ChatGPT and all those things which help me, but everybody doesn't. That's a new
And
generation.
I don't think it's the, just to clarify for you, I don't know that it is the having to write versus type lesson plans. It is the having to have them in a longer format required. Every teacher has it written down or in a computer, that's never gonna be the issue. It's the longer format that some places are requiring.
Thank you.
But again, that's a local requirement, not a
Yes.
state requirement.
It's local.
Yes.
If I could interject too, on the lesson plan, one of the things we kept hearing is a lot of our schools, particularly elementary schools, have common planning, and so they create common lesson plans. And they're saying, we have these amazing lesson plans that are aligned to the standards, we have the activities, and then we must also do this. So they said, we feel like we've met all summer to really calibrate how to create these common lesson plans so that they are aligned, and we have a nice sequence, and then we're having to do that. So I know that was a common, we saw that a lot in the surveys as well.
So, excuse me, if they're doing the common lesson, I'm sorry, oh wait, I
No, that's
remember.
good.
Marie
Go on.
first.
She's being so
Sorry.
patient.
I remember, let me make a note. I have a question.
No, you go ahead, I know my question. Go ahead.
If they're doing the common lesson plans, that's for the school district, because they have that laid out. So what is the other that you're talking about? I was trying to understand.
So then the additional, so those individual plans where they're.
Oh, okay, for the students, right,
Yes,
IEPs and
so
all
they're
that.
looking at their common.
And
lesson
then,
plan
right, for the
and
classroom,
doing
individual, okay, thank you.
Of the comments that you have listed, the positives and the negatives, I am assuming that those comments were named several times.
On the previous slide or on this one, or right?
No,
Right here.
when you
Just
got
this
your responses back, were there many folks that said that, duplicate entry is required? Were there many folks that said what each of those things were?
Yes.
Not
Yeah.
just
And
one
also,
comment?
yes, great question. And also our own experience. And we also, farmed out questions. I asked my community, which is pretty broad in the state of different educators, and just send me your thoughts. Send me a voice text, send me an email, I'll find you in the hallway, I'll see you at Publix. Let's talk about it so I can bring it back. And that is what, from all corners of the state, we're saying.
And I think,
Elevation.
That's
That's
our,
a
for our
It's our
students.
ELL, it's our ELL platform.
Yes.
That's just for, and I was glad to see that was a positive. So that is a platform that we went after because of the demand. The EL teachers were like, we don't have anything, we need support. So it's how they track and keep up with the progress of EL students.
And it is
basically.
learning how to talk to the other programs now too, so
Yes.
Stacy's on top of that as well. Yeah.
And that's one that you all have, by the way, since buried in your budget, because I'm not sure I used the word elevation, but sometime back in the summer, when we were at American Village, I think I mentioned that we had to have about $2 million for EL, because this, so teachers love it. I've not heard one EL teacher say anything but positive about it, but it is not funded, even though we developed it with federal money. So this year, we are just paying for it. We just figured it out. We're patching together money to keep it alive for one more year, but next year it'll require the legislature to fund it or it will go away. So it's good to know. This is another thing. We can go to them and say, hey, in the paperwork reduction committee, this is one of the positives, so we have to have that $2 million to keep it.
But Ms. Manning, you look at that positive and the negative, and the paradox is the bottom. They like all those systems, but the negatives, they don't communicate like they want to. So I like the paradoxical comment, the more digitized we become, the more powerful we seem to have.
And that actually was a comment from one of the teachers who filled out the survey, which was really interesting.
but I have to sort of hit that. I do believe that not necessarily because we're more digitized or more this or more that. I think there's been more impact, and you always hear, if you don't document, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure that you have, we always talk about make sure you cover your P's and Q's, because when they come back and you meet with parents or you meet with the community and you know you always hear about lawsuits and all. We have gotten to the point as society that we keep more documentation to protect ourselves, not because it's digitized, it's because it's the new world.
And I think in my own situation, this is not what's happening, but I'm looking at my own classroom data. I have a lot of data that no one's ever gonna see. You know, it's just my own notes on their fluency and on their math tests and how do they do with this standard and all the different things that has no business being anywhere online. Nobody needs that information. It's just for my day-to-day understanding of that student.
Your benefit.
It's for my benefit, and perhaps a conversation with the parents, maybe with the child themselves. But it's when we kind of get in the weeds with all the nitpicky things that, oh, well, we have it, let's turn it digitally. That's when it takes a leap into the wrong, it takes it too far.
And right now, you know, Stacy works really closely with ARI and OMI to look at what those requirements in the law are. So I love hearing that the legislature is willing to look at those requirements, even because I think it gives us a platform to say, here are the pieces that we're entering right now that have the highest payoff. These are the pieces in our PST meetings and our discussions with parents that are really necessary to be tracked across the years and with students and looking at those SRIPs. And so I think that this does give us a little bit of an end to have those conversations to see. Because you're right, sometimes we just add more because we can do it online. It feels like it's quicker, so we're just like, so let's do a few more things because it's easy to add to it. We just add more and more to it, and sometimes that doesn't really.
And that goes back to the time.
Yeah.
When are you gonna put it in?
Right.
And then what does that time, what are you not doing because of that?
I appreciate y'all giving us so much time. We just have 2 more slides really quickly. I apologize.
We
But I
enjoy
think
what you're saying because
that's great.
it's probably the biggest thing that we deal with in our personal lives and on the day-to-day.
I love that.
This time, because the more technology I have, the less time I have that's not in the future.
That's so interesting. So one of the things that we thought was really interesting, when we look at the number of people who completed the survey, you can see the majority of them were at that elementary level, which we tried to, when we were analyzing the data, the first time we looked at it, we tried to just observe and make no assumptions. We just said, what do you see? What do you notice? And then we dove back in again and we made some assumptions and we tried to think about what it actually meant. So we can possibly assume that the elementary teachers have more paperwork or are more passionate with their opinions, or possibly because of the Numeracy Act or the Literacy Act, they're involved more in it. But either way, we had more responses from our elementary teachers. And just to make sure I clarify on that chart, it looks like we had more than the 549 classroom teachers that responded because some people do multiple grade levels. And so a lot of people may serve K through 5 or K through 12. But what we found really interesting was the chart that's on the right. It looks like it starts high and gets lower. This is the respondents' general familiarity with analytics and insights. We had a chart right before it that was their familiarity with PowerSchool, the platform in general, so the student information system, so the attendance and the grade book, and it looked the exact opposite. So we had a much more familiarity with that part of the platform and not as much with analytics and insights. Well, you can assume a couple of different things. We could assume maybe the elementary teachers are the ones more on the right side of the chart and secondaries on the left because we haven't really integrated at the secondary level quite as much as we have at the elementary level. Or possibly we've done a really good job training or had more time to train with PowerSchool SIS and not as much with PowerSchool Analytics and Insights. And so that, it could be read a couple of different ways. Either way, our takeaway is that there definitely needs to be more understanding about the potential of analytics and insights and what does it look like and how can we best use that platform. And really just giving our teachers access to see Stacy and hear Stacy Royster. By the way, she's amazing. Yeah. And our state, by the way, is one of the only states, she can speak more to this, who really is using this consistent platform statewide for student plans and evidence. And I think it really, again, we can assume that's where some of our data looks so great because of this. We're seeing growth in our students. To the point where other states and other nations now, she's been in England, who are asking us about this. And so we definitely want to continue, not say it's perfect and say it's great as is, because obviously there are some ways we can continue to tweak it. And her team is so amazing about making those tweaks. But again, some of those things take time, or we want to cycle it through the next school year. And so teachers don't immediately see a payoff. And so there's that conversation and communication that just kind of has to be consistent and uniform. All right.
And before I close this, I do want to say thank you to those, our section leaders who were there, because the communication now is completely open. And like she said, there are some things that are already in the works just from our meeting in November, and we're literally just getting started in what we're doing. So what I hope you see is that we are excited to take the insights that we have gained and move them forward. We have 5 next steps for the spring and into the fall.
As of right now.
Which is, I mean, it's kind of a lot really for a group that meets 3 times and has another job, quite frankly. But this is such important work. And so one of the things we want to do is create a template for the state board section so that they can define the paperwork and where is it coming from? Is it federal? Is it state? Legislature? Is it the State Department? Or is that a local decision? Which I think will help clarify some of what questions you've been bringing up. We want to discuss ways to provide consistent communication and training between our state board sections and our classroom teachers, specifically for the Power School Analytics and Insights. We want to further look into and analyze the ways that Power School Analytics and Insights can help us decrease this redundancy and this duplication of paperwork at our local levels. We want to keep looking at other types of paperwork, including our lesson plans, like we said, our meeting documentation, the parent communication, those that had the lower student payoff, and to provide best practices or guidance for our classroom teachers and our local agencies. And then actually in our January meeting, this is what we're digging into, is we're analyzing the requirements. Now that we know what paperwork is, let's look at the law and really truly see what it is we need to be doing. And we're gonna continue creating a plan to make that happen. So on behalf of teachers and our state, thank you for this voice that you have given us. We're really looking forward to positively impacting our state and our profession for many years to come. So thank you.
And when next we report, we're gonna try to bring some more representatives so you can put a face to a name with some of these people from your districts and other people. So hopefully they can join us.
Well, we thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Long.
Thank you, Dr. Long.
Just a comment. Thanks to the people on the committee. I'd like to also express thanks to the legislature for bringing up such a brilliant idea, as to find out, are we spending time on things that aren't productive? I guess a couple of questions that I had is, wonder how many hours or how many minutes in a day or hours in a week that a teacher spends? Anybody?
We started with the teacher audit. That was going to be one of the suggestions. We asked them, and then it felt like we were asked. It was a too heavy of an ask for that first group, so we didn't have them like log the time. Some of them might have, but we didn't quite get that. Yeah,
But just
it's a great question.
curiosity.
It's a great
And the other thing is, how much of the unnecessary time requirement is a federal mandate? And maybe we should talk to our federal legislators and ask them if they might consider the same thing. No telling how many hours of federally mandated time is wasted. Maybe they'd consider the same thing, is to let us ask them, can we do away with some things that aren't really
We did
necessary
have
so
that
we can spend
conversation.
more time teaching?
Yeah, we did have that conversation. You hate to tell somebody, I'm sorry, we can't do anything about that. So
Yeah,
sorry,
that's-
tough, that's a hard thing to say, and so I think your advice is great.
And then the third thing is, the bottom line is, to me, is, we are in need of teachers and certainly retaining teachers, and you touched on that thing. But of the things that I hear from teachers that I talk to in my area, my local area, in my district, the unnecessary paperwork issue is the number 1 or 2 reason teachers either decide to retire on time or just get out of teaching. So that's in the top 2 reasons that teachers tell me that they're not staying in the profession any longer than they have to or than they want to. That's something we need to address seriously.
You want to say
One thing, and I'm thinking, I've just picked up on a word that you were saying, unnecessary. But I think what this committee is going to help is determine what is necessary. Because oftentimes it appears unnecessary because you're doing it.
Right.
But indeed, it is necessary. So I think this committee is going to help with that. So thank you for that comment.
We couldn't have better people, and I say that sincerely. Obviously, these 2 are really great. I know they worked hard to get a really good committee. And as Ms. Hurd said, they are doing this on top of their other jobs.
Yeah.
So really appreciate what y'all doing.
Thank you all so much. Serve on any of these committees, it takes time.
Yeah.
Additional time for everybody.
This takes a lot of time
Yes.
for the people on the committee, for sure.
Right.
So the next thing, we are going to look at the higher education report card. and Ms. Harris gonna come back. So we're gonna, y'all heard me say, and I know I said to you earlier that how excited I am about this because it is, it's just more user-friendly than it used to be. I thank you for doing the work to get this done. Oh, she's not gonna come. Doctor, you're gonna take care of this, huh? You're gonna lead us through this? Okay. Dr. Olivia Hampton and Dr. Denise Peacock. And Dr. Peacock, unless we tie her down with rope today, this may be her last presentation to us, isn't it? Because you are.
Bittersweet for sure, yes.
Well, I just said if. I'm not tying you down. She's planning to retire and leave us here at Northwest and does amazing work. Y'all know she leads all our work with the praxis and the reporting for our higher ed institutions, and we're going to really, really miss her. And she has at least one very talented granddaughter, because I got to meet her because she was in a program here in Montgomery. And you've got other grandchildren too, I think.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Dr. Mackey was so sweet. He videoed the whole performance for me because he was in the program.
That's awesome.
Just really appreciate that. But yes, it's definitely bittersweet for me. Certainly going to miss all of you, so.
Well, I appreciate your work on this. According to Miss Martin, I don't believe she said, I said a couple of years ago.
You did.
And then they just did it. They just started working on this digital format, and I said, I don't remember saying that. And they said I did. So, but when I got it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Why did y'all do this? Because you said to do it. So I'm like, well, it is really, really good. So let me let them jump into it. So the two things. One is the information, obviously, about the institutions. But what I'm more excited about is the format. Because going forward, it's just going to be so much easier to digest and to see where things are going right and where we need to do new things with our institutions. Before they talk, I will say this, so y'all know with me, there's one thing we look at with our institutions that kind of is above all the others, and that is first-time pass rates on praxis and foundations of reading tests, and ultimately the foundations of mathematics tests, which we don't have yet, but we're building that with our testing vendor. But this is my way of saying it, but I do believe this, and I've said it to higher ed people. The first time pass rate tells me how good the institution's doing. The second time pass rate tells me how good the tutor did. And then if it takes 3 or 4 times, how many tutors it took. But ultimately, if the institution's doing their job, they don't have to take it 2, 3, 4 times. Now, if they do, that's great. I'm thrilled with a teacher who has fortitude and takes the praxis 4 times, and on the 4th time they pass and they become a certified teacher and they go in the classroom and do great work. But the institution, I'm looking at first time pass rates. How many of your students, the first time they sit down for the assessment, are ready to take it then? And so that's, you'll see, we show all of those. First time, how many took 2, and so on. But we really look at first time pass rates. Maybe we will look at other things, but higher ed, as you know, is very different from K-12. So when we talk about a report card, we don't measure things like attendance. Like we measure attendance in our schools, but we don't measure attendance in college classes. We wouldn't be able to get that information if we wanted to. What we get are the passes on the test, and then a survey information from both their employers and the employees. And we try to match those up to see if the employee says, I have been well prepared to do this, does the administrator say the same thing, or vice versa? And then there was one other thing I wanted to say. Oh, and the other thing is, it's always important to remember, we do not get information if they never pass the test. So let's say somebody graduates, or they complete a program and in high school science, and they don't pass the praxis, and they take it a second time and they don't pass it, and then they just give up and decide, you know what, I'm going to get a job doing something else and not try to become a teacher. We don't get those information at all, because all we get are reported passes. Okay, so we don't, so there are, not, again, I don't, like I said, and Ms. Hurt did a great job clarifying, yes, we're so glad to get that 500 people who did respond. But again, I don't want you to think that's a large number of people, but there are every semester people that just move on, they don't pass the praxis. And so when you look at this pass rate and you say, well, 82% of such and such college, their students ultimately pass, well, that does not include those who never pass. And y'all remember we did have some institutions in recent history that kept showing that they had 20 people in a program, but no graduates year after year. And when we looked into that, it was because they had nobody finishing their program who could pass the praxis, not one. So we're not certifying them if they can't pass it. So those obviously lead to other discussions about the program reviews, and we've done that work. That's why y'all last year approved new standards. Like, we're really digging into program review. Like, if you're not graduating any teachers, why do you have a program? But so those things are getting better. But we wouldn't have known that if we hadn't been looking at the data. Like, why is this the case, and questioning those things. So we're gonna have a better format for doing that now than we've ever had before, thanks to these three ladies and their awesome team. So I don't know who's starting first, so, but you gotta go.
Yeah, all right, so thank you all for having us today to talk about the new educator preparation institutional report cards. I'm sure you were saddened that you didn't have the big binders in front of you today. I don't know who's more excited, Denise or you all. She hated those things. But even though Dr. Mackey has selected memory, he did tell us, you know, we talked about the format several times. After that, Ms. Martin and I met, and she said, whatever you need, let's just make it happen. So we worked together with Stacy Worcester, who was amazing. Stacy facilitated the calls with us with Power School so that we could get the report card into the format that it is now. Thank you to the EPPs who responded to Dr. Hampton immediately with the data that she needed to make this a reality. I am so appreciative of that. One of the things that we talked about, Dr. Hampton and I, when she first got here, was just, you know, working on building relationships again. And she has done an amazing job with that, and they respond very positively to her, so I'm grateful for that. And so that's all that I have. I thank my ladies here, my team. They've done an amazing job with this, so I'm gonna hush now and I'm gonna turn it over to them.
Okay, so it's an honor to be here to present this to you today, and it does represent a change from where we are. We are changing, but we will continuously change. As we look at it, as we think about it, it's going to be an evolving project, and it will continue to grow so that we will have everything necessary to help our EPPs produce better teachers. So when we look at the report card format, as has been mentioned before, we had a very static report card. It's a dynamic dashboard now, and thanks to the individual from Power School, Stacey Royster taking the charge, she was able to help us to look at how we could do this. And so now, with the report, it's gonna be filterable. And Denise always picks with me with that word, but I looked it up, it is a word. But we'll have our information.
She won.
On accreditation, about the educator preparation progress, and as Ms. Cummings mentioned, that's heavy information. Ms. Harris, I apologize to you.
Okay.
Ms. Harris mentioned that's heavy information about that the EPPs had to respond to and give us immediately. And not just that they had to give it to us, they had to give us 4 years of data very quickly. And we had none about 24 EPPs that failed to give us the institution information. So I'm very, very happy with that. With the surveys, you've seen those surveys before. We're looking at improvements with that because that survey is not one that the State Department of Education developed. The actual Alabama Association of Colleges of Teacher Education developed that survey. And this year they have been in the process, along with APE, in going back and revising that survey. So we will have a revised survey for that soon. The assessments, which Denise very candidly gives information about every year.
Yes, definitely. So you're gonna love the dashboard, long story short. I can't say enough about how excited I am about having it. Stacy has been amazing, and I believe our team at Power School is tuning in to watch this live. So thank you, people at Power School. They have been phenomenal and patient with us, and we are just so excited about it.
But as Dr. Hampton said, you will be able to filter and compare institutions to the state reporting and see everything in real time. If you're a visual learner, this is gonna be amazing for you as well. And then also, we've got a new piece with the teacher shortage that's going to be very enlightening as well.
So, what it will include is the state level data as well as individual EPP level data. With the 2025 report, it's gonna include, and cover each of the following: the certificates issued, the testing data, employee and teacher certification, survey response data. We'll also, as mentioned, have that teacher shortage information, the accreditation information, and information about who's going into the programs and who's finishing the programs. Yeah, I'm trying. Okay, so when we look at accreditation, the great thing this year, I already said one time when I sat at the table, all 24 of our EPPs in Alabama are fully accredited by CAES. And we are very happy to say that, because you're not gonna look across the United States and see that. That's Alabama right now. We wanna keep them there. And so you'll be able to look at this and see that, because you won't see any on probation or with stipulations. And you'll also see which of our EPPs have initial programs only, initial and advanced programs, and which have advanced programs only. Also, so that the report card is not difficult for somebody that doesn't know much about education, we included the relevant definitions as well, so that they can go and see what they're actually examining.
Thank you on that.
Yes, ma'am. So with the educator preparation progress, you're gonna see how many have their EPPs admitted, how many have exited the program without completion. Let me put a pin here, because we asked for that this year for the first time. That hadn't been something that the EPPs were accustomed to us asking for. So some of them were very honest and said, we haven't been collecting that. Okay, well, no, moving forward, that's something that we expect you to collect. So you'll see improvements as the report card moves forward with the years. The number completed program, this is a big one, reasons for attrition. We need to understand, why are they leaving education in the first place? Because if we can understand the why, then we can begin to work on those things that are causing individuals to depart the profession before even becoming certified. Also, we needed a place for our EPPs to brag on themselves too. So what are your major initiatives you're working on, those points of pride? And what are those things you're doing right now in the vein of continuous improvement to get better?
You can do surveys, I'll do tests.
So our surveys, who are we talking about here? So you have two groups of surveys. One will be your first and second year teachers. They're in our mentoring program, Alabama Teacher Mentor Program, and that's who completed that data for that portion. They're completing it about how they feel their Class B or alternative Class A program prepared them to be an educator. You'll also have those that are completed by their employers, and employers are saying how well they're doing in each of those areas. Thing I want to keep in your mind is this: these are perceptual surveys. So this is their perception. Anytime you're dealing with perceptions, you may not always be quite dealing with reality, but we do have their perceptions to report to you. So we'll have that information summarized. Also, we'll have some of the comments available that have been provided for those various groups.
Okay, now I'm up. Okay, so in the assessment part, and you're pretty familiar with what we have looked at in the past, that did not change. We're looking at praxis, which is gonna be listed on the report as content area. And then foundations of reading, right now we have that listed as a literacy tab under the report, and then of course our EdTBA data. And you'll look at the pass rates by percentages like we have in the past. You will be able, as I said before, to filter. So you'll have a page that'll show all of the state information. And then if you want to look at the state and compare it to a certain institution, you'll be able to do that as well. So it's really great to see it all on the screen in real time, side by side. I'll do teacher shortages. And so this part is very interesting, and as we were putting it together, we found it to be very interesting too, because as former teachers, those who love the profession and certainly want to continue to have students educated, we want to know why there are teacher shortages. What do we need to do differently? Where are the problems? How can we help? And so this teacher shortage area is going to be very enlightening. It is a pie chart, and it shows all the different shortages
by teaching fields. So you can look to see what areas are experiencing shortages, and then also you'll be able to filter down to see specifics within district levels. So the shortages in, one area may not be the same as shortages in another area. And then, of course, we've got some future work to do. This is a new section for us. So what you're seeing here will be the beginning of some really great information to come.
All right, so as we look at this, we'll continue to evaluate the report card to determine other components that we're gonna need to determine impact on student learning and to ensure EPPs have the necessary information to provide candidates the opportunity to provide every child every chance every day. And so one of the things that, as we talked about earlier, Dr. Mackey gave you the prelude into it when he talked about utilizing the data and looking at that. One of the things we found out from some of our EPPs, during COVID, many of them did not collect ACT scores, SAT scores, because they weren't required for entry. Now many of them are getting back to the place where they're collecting that information. Well, just as we have 24 different EPPs, all of them are quite unique. And so with that uniqueness, what we find is that some, we have one EPP, the average ACT score is a 28 entry. Yeah, exactly. That was my reaction too when I first heard that, very high. But we have some also where they're taking those the blueberries that ordinarily wouldn't succeed, and they're turning out diamonds because they take them with a 14 or 15 and they rise to the top and become successful. And so we want to continue to collect additional information from the EPPs as well so that we can look at that. The last part, hopefully one day in the future, we will be able to pair this with some impact data so we can see how are these teachers performing and what impact are they having on student learning in the K through 12 environment. So thank you again, Stacy. I know. I'm getting there.
We can hear you talk. Honestly, we can hear what you're saying. If you think you're Texas, we can hear you.
Okay, so here we are with the report card. This first tab is the accreditation page. As you can see, the accreditation status by year, you can look in that first little graphic there and see that all of our institutions are accredited, 100%. So when you look at the level status by year, you're going to see those with initial programs, initial and advanced, or advanced programs only. We don't have any of our EPPs that only have advanced programs. Either they have initial only or they have initial and advanced. Okay? And here we just have some definitions. It tells you what each one of the areas would be accredited, what that means, accredited with stipulations, probation area accreditation, and not accredited. Then as you come here, what would be initial? Initial would be entry-level positions and individuals' comprehensive review of an educated preparation provider's ability to meet 7 standards related to these areas, and those are the areas from K. With advanced, it certifies that post-baccalaureate or graduate level programs prepare those educators for advanced roles. Okay, and so with this one, when we come to the filter, the only way you'd be able to filter data right now is by accreditation status. Since all of them are fully accredited, the filtering would not show you anything different than what's here.
And we hope that doesn't change.
Yes, yes. Our goal is to keep it at 100% accredited. So our next tab here is educator preparation progress, okay? So now at this point, what we're looking at is state level data. So with the state, we had two, I'm gonna go to another year, and the reason is because this year, 24-25, if they were unconditionally admitted that year, you're not gonna see many completers or anything yet because they're still enrolled in programs. So I'm gonna go and filter by school year. As I said, they had to turn in 4 years, 2021-22, all the way through 24-25, so let's just pick 23-24. You'll have more there. So in 23-24, you can see that 5,422 candidates were unconditionally admitted to programs in Alabama. 272 of them that we know of were exited the program without completion. And 1,686 thus far have completed the program. Now, as you see, those two numbers don't add to be the total because many of them are still currently enrolled in the program. When we go down to look here, you can look at how the data changed with the years. And the careful thing, you'll see everywhere note 2 asterisks that designates that the data are not reported because the N is 5 or less. We don't want it to be traced or individually identifiable. So we have that in there as a filter. When you look here, you can see the trend lines though, and if you hover over it, it will actually give you the numbers for that year.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so you can see that with each one, but you can see with the bars, you can see that it's pretty steady over the 4 years with how many have been admitted to programs. Now we can go down and look at the number admitted by educator preparation program for that year. And you have it for each of the institutions. Again, you can go later if you like, once it's public, and filter the data by institutions. So you can see all the data specifically for that EPP. And once again, mouse troubles, but I'm going. You can see number exited the program without completion. Now this is the area I want you to remember the caveat. The caveat is that some of them were not collecting this information. So when you see that, you might see some institutions with none. It may not be that there were none. They just were not collecting that information, so they could not report on that.
Auburn, I couldn't believe, I can't read the big tall one, it said Auburn State.
Jacksonville State University is the tall one there.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
can't read it, sorry.
No problem. The number completed in educator preparation programs for 23-24, you can come and see that. And once again, if it's lower than 5, you will not see information. You'll see double asterisk. But if it's 6 or greater, you will see that number there when you hover over the
Yeah,
bars.
when you hover over it, you'll see the actual number.
Absolutely. All right, so this is state level, just the comparison of that year with the admits, those that exited without completion, and those that completed. When you do choose an institution, you'll get a side-by-side comparison of the state's information as well as their institution's information. So now when we look, this will be for Class B, which is our initial certification at the undergraduate level, alternative Class A, which is initial at the graduate level, Class A, advanced at the master's level, and Class AA, advanced at the education specialist level. And you can see with each of the colors, you can get a good idea of how many certificates were issued at each one of those various levels by looking at these graphs, and for those various years. And here's the, if you forget what each one of those are, you have a legend here to tell you what each of the certification classes are. And with our reasons for attrition and how it's changed over the year over year, you can see from 2021-22 all the way to 24-25. Now, Dr. Peacock picked every time we looked at this graph, she said, I can't read that graph. And so that's okay. So if anybody else doesn't like the reading of the graph, you come right down and it has a bar chart and it shows you exactly what are the greatest reasons for attrition that people are leaving programs. You can look at this, but then later if you go filter, you can also filter this by institution to see at this particular institution, why are they leaving versus why are they leaving in the state. Now, this part I really like. If you see, you can't see the entire thing, but major initiatives and our points of pride identified by the EPP. This is self-reported data directly from them. And so if you go here, you click on it. I'm not gonna click because every time I click, I can't use this mouse wheel in here anyway, and I probably wouldn't be able to get back to the screen. But you can click on it and it will give you the full comment where they tell you what their point of pride. Also, if you have the data filtered by an EPP, you can come in and look at that information just for that educated preparation provider. I know I'm making you dizzy, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, gave up.
We need a mouse.
You gotta translate.
And so the bottom one, yes, this one, if you look, these are the continuous improvement areas and processes that they're doing at their institution during this particular year. Now, Ms. Harris, if you go back to the top, very top of this screen. Okay, so it's not me.
Let's try it on.
Gotta have a better surface.
Okay.
All right, so if you go in here under filter data, at the very top left.
I can't talk about you this time. It's not you.
One quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the attrition part, so that's from those that are in the program, telling you why they're leaving? And
Yes, so
there's a survey that's done for the state level?
Not at the state level, no, this is reported from the EPPs.
Okay.
I want to thank you for asking that, because I can take a moment to thank my team. The Mansfield Walker, Jamar Wright, Kelly Shumack, and Alicia Curry, they worked relentlessly with me to develop new forms, new spreadsheets to get this information. And so one of the columns is a drop down. You either select one of the reasons that are there, or you click other, and you add the exact reason that the candidates may have left the program.
Okay, I wondered about that.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you.
And so you can filter this once again by school year, by the EPP, by certification class. If you just want to look at, for example, Class B individuals, you can look at program content areas if you just want to look at elementary education. And you can also look at it by gender or by demographic group. So all of those filters are available here. So if you'll go over to surveys, please. Surveys by employers.
Like that.
I love it. I won't say your field. I love it. So when we look at the surveys by employers, you'll see here, if you go back to the top, this, you only have the 2024-25 because each year with the static report cards before now, you have the information from the ATMP, the mentor survey. So we have this year, and what it will show is up to 5 years moving forward. So this year we have 24-25, and next year you'll see 24-25 and 25-26, and carry each year till you get 5 years. Then the 24-25 will drop to pick up the next year when you get past that 5. So you see here we had 633 employer responses that were received in the 24-25 year, and that was from 147 school districts. Would you go down, please? Now, once again, I told you this is self-reported data. So you see some of them chose 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and 4 or more. This is for first and second year teachers, but it is from their employers, so some of them chose the number they thought best fit. The evaluated teacher status, we had about 98%, I believe that is, there were probationary, or they were in their first and second year there, and 2% that they reported were tenured. When you look at their teacher ratings, this is reported at the question level. So if you hover over, Ms. Harris, you'll see that there you can see the numbers. Ineffective, I can't read it from here, but I believe that's 703. Then you go up with your emerging teacher, effective teacher, and teacher leader. That's how they rated them for each question. It's not by person, but by question. Yes, okay? And so how do employers respond to each question for 24-25? There's your graphic, and if you open that up, and they don't open it now, but you can open it in a table, and that table will show you each question and the breakdown for each question with how they responded. Okay?
This is wonderful.
Now, with the teacher status, that's the definition for probationary and tenure, so you can see that. And with the rating levels, what each rating level means from teacher leader all the way down to an ineffective teacher. So you'll know that as well. Over here. Go ahead. Okay. So if you go back to the top now and take it to, go back to surveys. And go to surveys by in-service teachers, okay?
Before you leave that,
Yes,
this
ma'am.
page.
Mhm.
Okay,
Too late.
I know, too late, I'm sorry. Very quickly, I know it's first and second year teachers. I know you have down the 633 received, okay, and 147 districts participating. How has the response rate been? I know normally it's difficult to get these surveys out. So out of the number that was sent out for 24-25, you got 147 districts to participate.
Correct.
How many did you send out? Or do you know that?
We sent this out this year a little differently. We
Okay.
sent it out through Cognia this year because we're using Cognia for the mentoring platform. We saw a slight uptick in the response rate. However, the big problem with it is that some districts you might have at a school, 8 new teachers.
Correct.
And when that employer gets it, the employer looks at it and says, oh, I just filled out on all the new teachers. Well, that doesn't give us specific information. So that's one of the reasons that we are revising that survey, not the State Department, but allocate along with APAR, revising it so that we can tie it to that individual teacher's number. And so when that employer completes that survey, they're completing on that teacher only.
Okay.
Yes, and
I
that's
know
one of
that
the
could be a
changes
problem.
moving
That's
forward.
what I was asking. Okay,
Yes.
I think that's a positive change.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I think also in the past too, the surveys were directed to the mentor liaisons.
They were
Who are
oftentimes.
not the individuals who complete the survey. So
Right.
I know Alethea and Kim have been working on making sure that they get the surveys to the individual that it needs to go to
Okay,
versus the liaison.
thank you. Thanks for that change. I think that's gonna help the data.
Absolutely. Understood. All right, so now out of those in-service teachers that completed, we had 779 to complete it. And if you'll notice here with years of experience, you'll see here they only have the 0, 1 to 1 to 2 because they identify how many years of experience they had themselves. how many reporting that they are certified to teach the subject that they are teaching the subject that they are certified to teach. This was interesting to me. We had 92%, I believe, that said they're certified to teach the subject they are prepared to teach, and 8% saying they're teaching something else. So that was very interesting to see. With the overall teaching ratings, they graded all their questions, and this is then reported at the question level, from strongly disagree all the way to strongly agree. And once again, you hover there and you can see exactly how many questions were reported for each level. And then how did the teachers respond to each question for 24-25? You can go ahead and then, once again, export this, and you'll be able to look at the tables there to see exactly what the responses look like. This is the part that's really interesting as well. Teacher comments by year for each educator preparation program. So you can go down, and for each educator preparation program, there are comments that were qualitative questions that they reported to here that you can go and read their responses.
Great. I'm sure the universities would also like to
Oh,
have that,
yes.
Absolutely.
have those responses.
Yes, ma'am. And so in the assessments,
All right.
Dr. Peacock, do you want to try this now?
No.
It's a fun
Make sure,
exercise.
so the thing is that make sure it's aligned as much as you can.
When we
Because they
align.
put it on this folder.
See right underneath the screen.
Okay, I'll do my best. So as I stated earlier, right now for our assessments, we have divided them into the 3 categories. Of course, we have the pedagogy, the content, and that's going to be your praxis subject areas. Your pedagogy will be your EdTPA, and in some small cases, PLT will still trickle in there here and there, but mostly it's EdTPA. And then, of course, our literacy will be our foundations of reading tests. So those are the 3 categories. So we'll just start here at the top with pedagogy. And again, this is going to be at the state level, as we said before, and so it's defaulting here to bachelor's programs at the state level. And it's gonna show you for the state, just if we take all tests into consideration, how many passed on the first attempt, the second attempt, and 3 or more attempts on their exam. And again, you will be able to go in and filter those by institution, as we stated earlier. And then very interesting extra things that we haven't had before that are very exciting is now we're gonna start looking and breaking things down by gender, and being able to hone in on maybe some areas where we, need some work, or we can get some accolades here. So this would be by gender. This is your female group and your male group for now for the state. Okay, all right, and then it's gonna show you here like a side-by-side comparison, so you can see the different choices that we have here as far as what they put down for their particular race. Pass rates, of course, first attempt, second attempt, 3 or more attempts. Oh, now I see it's starting to act ugly to me, gentle. And then here we are, just a good snapshot, and that's one thing I really do love about this platform as we put it together. In the end, after you're looking at everything, then you can see all of your institutions in one place together, and then by institution, you get a quick snapshot of first attempt, second attempt, and 3 or more attempts on the pass rates.
So just quickly, and I'm not gonna keep her long, but you see that goes back to what I said at the beginning. See how everybody's 100%. Because if they never passed it, we don't report them at all. So it's always gonna show 100% because it's how many of the people who have a teaching certificate, how many of them passed on 1 attempt versus 2 attempts versus 3 or more attempts. But if they never matriculated to a teaching certificate, they're not reported at all.
Right. And if they don't have the certificate, it's because they were still short somewhere.
I'm reading on the side, Miles College is the one that has 3 or more attempts, 100%. So they didn't break down the data by the other 2, right?
No, the data is broken down by all areas, but one thing I want everyone to keep in mind here
It says first attempt, second attempt, third attempt. Miles College is all red, which is third attempt.
which that means those individuals that took the test at that particular institution that year took 3 or more attempts. So one thing I do want to caution everybody when they're looking at the data and thinking about it, examining it, is that with all of the EPPs, they are all in various stages in that continuous improvement. And that's one thing that was clear and very apparent to us when we went on the road this year to work with the institutions with visits. And some of them is more of the content they're working with. Some of them is more commentary, because EdTPA is heavy commentary based. And if those individuals maybe have some issues with writing commentaries, or if they have some issues where they're getting error codes when they're recording and submitting their videos, then you're gonna see that they have to submit more than one time. You know, and sometimes we look at just a test to make an assumption, and it's hard to do sometimes because there are different caveats at each of our institutions that they're having to work on. And so the great thing about when you dig into the data and look at it more, you can see where, okay, this might be an area we need to work on, but then that EPP can develop a very focused strategy on working on that particular area where they may have a deficit so that they can help improve their student or their candidate performance in that area.
I was about to ask you a question about that, because I think, for example, here, when you all came to visit, there were some things because of change in administration that had to be done in reference to this data. A plan had to be submitted. So there's some things that are underway according to the state, Dr. Reynolds. So, and that was 23, wasn't that 23?
This is 23, 24.
So now we're in 24, 25.
Right.
So you should see some differences based upon their review. So when you go and click on check and
And that's one thing that's gonna be great for all the APPs as well, that you'll be able to see it across each of the years, and as it grows, continue to see it across, so you can see how they're changing and what things they're doing in place and how they're impacting how their candidates are performing.
That's correct. Okay.
And another thing that Dr. Hampton and I talked about as we were looking at this, we're always thinking through it as we're examining the data. But you know, if you are an institution that has a small number, that can skew in one direction or the other. So if I've only got 4 people taking it, I might have gotten 100%. So it looks like great, but it was only 4. If I only have 4 people, but none of them passed until the 3rd attempt, it looks poor because it's only 4. So the institutions that have larger numbers, you know, theirs probably looks more even than the institutions that have smaller numbers for that particular year.
Let's go on to the next, take us to the next assessment.
All right, so the next thing, of course, is our content. That's praxis. And again, this first state level is breaking it down right here by every praxis test taken at the bachelor's level for that particular year. So first attempt, second attempt, and 3 or more attempts here.
Better vision, I can't read the percentage.
I know, it's very small. With my glasses on, it's blurry, and with them off,
So
it's blurry. I can't.
And it'll be, of course, you've got it, this will all be live on the website this afternoon too. So 61% on the first attempt, and then second attempt, 26%, and then 13% to 3 or more attempts. And again, that's back to with me, this is what I look at. How well is the institution doing? And I mean, we obviously would like to see that above 61%, but this is all practice exams, all areas. We know that some of them are lower than others. I think that might be on here, but historically, social studies has been the one that students have struggled with the most. And part of that is because,
It's a lot of content,
and the content on the praxis doesn't necessarily align with content they take. So for instance, an example, the student might be told, here, 20 courses in American history, and you can take any of these 20 courses and get credit, and they may choose, well, I'm really interested in the Civil War, so I'm gonna take the Civil War course, and there's not one question on the praxis about the Civil War. I'm not saying there's not one, but so they may have content knowledge that doesn't align, whereas math is a lot more straightforward. Like it's just a much more straightforward sort of course. So social studies historically has been the one that people have struggled with more, because it's so broad, so much content, and the courses they take don't necessarily align with the content on the praxis.
Also, our certification for social studies is very broad.
Why don't you go ahead and do assessments and let's do literacy and not have to go through all.
Okay, yeah, that's totally fine.
Because I know they're gonna get in there this afternoon and look anyway.
Absolutely. So literacy right now, of course, would be our foundations of reading. It's going to be set up exactly the same way. So we can see here for our foundations of reading, first attempt, second attempt, 3 or more attempts. And then you'll also have the same filters that we discussed before, where you can filter by certain institutions or by gender, by race, those types of things within this. So there's lots of interesting information in here. I know you'll have a good time pointing and clicking and going through it.
And again, that's work that, so this is the new reading test, it's aligned to the science of reading. And again, not with, I mean, that's concerning that only 56% of our students are passing on the first attempt. It's not it just means there's work to be done. We need to continue to work with their institutions to make sure that all of their professors are, we identified the right material. We've done a really good job with that. You changed the standards to make sure that our material, that they had to be aligned to the science of reading, but we gotta make sure that what's happening in the classroom is helping to support those students. Because we want really high pass rates. I mean, I'm not saying they don't want really high pass rates, but 56% is not where we want to be. So it shows us work to be done. And the old way you got it, we had this information, but when you got that binder that was 2 inches thick, it was very hard to filter through and just see that. And I think this will bring a lot more attention to it.
Oh, it definitely will. Now, this looks very busy right here, but again, remember, this is all districts, so this would be all of the various pieces here in this puzzle. When you go in and you begin to filter by a certain district or a certain area, then you'll be able to see things more clearly. But it is still interesting just to see overall the various areas of shortage. And then again, as you go by different districts, you'll see that if they're not the same areas in one place versus another. So just very
And so the data
interesting
for this table came, we collected it from the district, so it was self-reported data for this table, and we use the same filters that we use to report our federal teacher shortage report. So that's what this is, and the goal in the future for this is to so that the EPPs can see the shortage areas around them, and hopefully that will help with their recruitment efforts at their EPP.
So scroll back over just any one of those, will you, just so they can see that pops up. So there you go, elementary education, 661 reported needed positions statewide.
And then as you go there, you'll be able to see which district specifically, the numbers at each of the districts there. So.
Well, I think y'all can see why I was excited about this.
That's great.
And
Why
I
you
think
got it done too.
they're amazing. They do great work, and this is, and now it's built. So every year it will continue to populate. Again, a big thank you to our institutions. As they said, all 24 institutions responded and gave us the data so we could go ahead and pre-populate going back. So some of them, as they said, are current year going forward. But a lot of this data you can show historically too, going back 4 years. And as we build it, we'll have a lot more information out there. I just think they have done an amazing job. Yes, Ms. Martin?
Just to add one other little piece to this, as you notice, the teacher shortage was added. The one thing that we really like about this is it's a working tool. As we're looking at new things and new laws that come out, this is something we can add to it as we're going. So there's nothing to say that next year, these are the only components. If you look over there to your right, that's empty for a reason. So as we come up with new ideas, and they know I don't sleep, so I'll come up with something, say, hey, what about this? Let's look for data on this area. Anything that we can do to help improve our EPPs and to close our gaps with these shortages. We're looking to give that data, put it out there so that we can provide our students the best opportunity for instruction. So working document, thank you, thank you, thank you.
So we're pretty close to the end. I think y'all see the other things. We'll have we'll have an employee of the month next month. Of course, we haven't awarded that yet. And then we will be doing a resolution to recognize February as Career Tech Month. God Hawthorne's here. We're getting really primed. The auditorium will probably be pretty full in February because we'll have, I know getting way down, but in February we'll have Career Tech Month and we'll be recognizing our schools. We'll have a lot of schools we'll be recognizing for achievement and growth. And so that'll be a big one. It'll be, we're going to the winter, we always have smaller crowds, it's just the way it works, and then we'll have a big group in February. And fortunately, it comes across this year the same, it's kind of the same first week, I think it's the first week of the legislative session, so hopefully a lot of legislators will be able to come over and meet their teachers who are award-winning schools and do some pictures and things with us too, because that's good cross collaboration. The other thing I want to share for sure is the retreat agenda. So Ms. Ziegler has been helping us get this together for the Southwest Alabama visit. And Chuck Markham and then Anna Morris here in the office have done a lot of work on this. I know y'all are working on, maybe everybody has your reservations now, but if you don't, we have to do those reservations and get that to Miss Nora so we can get your travel stuff done. But the agenda, so here's what we're planning right now. Ms. Ziegler might can speak to some more of this, but let me just go through it. So we'll do the meeting at the University Faculty Club there. Again, this will be an open meeting just like a normal meeting. It'll be a pretty short meeting probably. I don't think we'll take a full hour, but we'll go from the meeting into a regular work session. So we wanted to separate the things that are work session items like we would normally do for the February meeting before lunch. Then really lunch will start the quote retreat because we'll start talking about other things. And there will be a lot of things to discuss by then because we'll be just 3 days out from the legislature reconvening too. So you'll see we're going to have some time with the University of South Alabama. There'll be time to see some special things they're working on there. We've got time just set aside for discussion. I think a lot of that will be budget updates and or legislative things that are coming down the line right then. Then dinner, together that night, working on dinner. The next morning, get up, you have a little bite to eat if you want to, but there's going to be a full breakfast at the Baldwin Academy, and their culinary team are doing breakfast for us. And so we'll be over there. It's a great facility. Yes, ma'am.
They'll need to check out at the hotel before they leave. They're not going back.
Yeah, check out of the hotel before we leave that day. We'll remind you about that. Take your things with you. Now, we have not provided transportation because I think everybody's going to want to, you're going to go over there. It's a pretty good little distance, but you're going to be a lot closer to home, everybody but Ms. Ziegler, when you leave Baldwin Prep. So I doubt anybody's going to want to go back to Mobile.
And that's why we did a box lunch.
Yeah.
Not that we don't want you to stay, but we don't want you to stay. I'll be out there going, bye, bye, have fun.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you're going to be as blown away by this facility as you were American Village. It really is amazing. And now we've got more of these dedicated career tech high schools, not just a career tech center, but a career tech high school opening across the state. But all of them have gone to visit Baldwin Prep as they build, because it really is kind of the tip of the spear on that.
And one of the reasons the breakfast looks like it's a long time, that's when I thought you don't want to separate Mobile from Baldwin, but I separated Mobile from Baldwin. So Mobile folks and the legislators of Mobile and the school board from Mobile will come to the Mobile on Thursday. And then Baldwin will be coming up. And so that during that time, they'll be able to speak, and the legislators and their school boards and all that. So that's why the breakfast is a little bit longer in duration.
And then the night, so the first night, January 7th, I think everybody's coming down that night, but now there's no programming that night. We will be, now obviously if people want to get together, we have, some of you have told us you're not getting to town till 10 o'clock that night. I've actually got a full day of meetings in Mobile that day, so I'll be there in the morning all day long. So people are coming at different times, so we'll kind of suss that out as we get closer, but there won't be formal programming that night. And again, thanks for all this. It's going to come quick now, and because the holidays are coming. And then, as I've mentioned in my letter to you, so that it's a little confusing for us because the agenda goes out 1 week before the meeting. That's New Year's Day. So it will come out early. And actually, we'll probably send you a draft agenda next week to go ahead and get, this is what we, pretty much what it's going to be, because things that aren't done by next week, it's gonna be really hard to pull together anyway before January 1st. So we're gonna go ahead and send you a draft agenda, knowing that some things might change. And then, you know, if they do, then after January 1, we'll have an update if there's updated agenda. But I'm very excited about it. This is something we've talked about for years, and it's finally kind of so far worked out. So we know there's a lot of moving pieces to make it work, though, and big appreciation to everybody here who's done that and received it. So that's all I have for today. Anything? We've got a Christmas lunch for you, though, so please stay with us.
Sounds good.
Sounds great. Adjourn.
See if we can get everybody really sleepy for the drive home. The drive south, or wherever. I gotta check out my goodies.